help, and I wanted to help them.
I've never seen anything like what we went through Sunday.
I was most impressed with the police and the fire department.
Without the training, I wouldn't have been there. That helped substantially.
It was very intense. What I provided these patients might mean the difference between life and death for them.
Yeah, I don't think there was too much problem thinking about what needed to be done. It was really obvious. There were a lot of people down there hurt, and the best thing we could do is get people to hospitals as fast as we could.
I was looking through my camera at the time, and I took a picture right as the planes collided.
I remember everything extremely clear. Not that I want to.
August 28th, 1988, at a Ramstein Air Base, West Germany. A day that created memories that will last forever. The events have been chronicled to show that the crash of 3 Italian aerobatic jets resulted in over 50 deaths and injured upwards to 500 people. They were among the 300,000 who came to the annual Flugtag, Flight Day, a chance for people to see military hardware up close and enjoy a day intended to foster goodwill and understanding. At 3:45 p.m. that Sunday, the 10 planes of the Italian team was attempting a maneuver when the solo pilot hit 1 or 2 jets passing in front. His plane tumbled in flames into a crowd of spectators.
At that time, I thought it was a great special effect. I thought, nothing like this, you ever see anything like this in the movies. And then I realized as I saw the plane starting to pitch around that he was coming down, and I started to run, and I ran back over this way, and I got as far as the first stretch of dirt right there when the aircraft impacted, and I felt the heat, and I went down, and I was screaming because I thought I had burning fuel on me, and I received 1st and 2nd degree burns here on the back of my arm and tore my arm up a little bit here, falling it down. Then I tried to come back and get my first aid kit out of our car, but due to all the fire and heat and the security police yelling at us to get out of the area, there were plenty of medical technicians already running around, and that was in less than 60 seconds. We just vacated the area after that.
The other 2 jets came down virtually side by side, damaging an Army Black Hawk helicopter that was ironically there in case of such an emergency. It was knocked out of action.
We were on the other side from the medical tents that a lot of people have seen in the paper. We were on the other end of the runway, and that's where the other plane came down. And our chopper was on fire. So it took us about, I guess, 5 minutes to respond to the other side because we had an injured pilot and an injured crew chief that we had to attend to on that side and then come over.
I was at the tent to the right of the plane, the first tent, the top 3 tent, and I was taking a break. I was sitting in a lawn chair when it happened, and I was blown off the lawn chair, and some lady flew on top of me. And the next thing I knew, my boyfriend was picking me up and telling me to get out of the way. And so I went running, I turned around, and I said, you know, people need help, and I'm a medic. So I went back, and I was telling, there was a lot of people who wanted to help out. So I was telling them to raise the people's legs up so to treat them for the shock position. And I went farther into the smoke where more people were more seriously injured and was trying to pick out the ones that really needed the help. And I ended up doing CPR on one guy and bringing him here to the clinic, and I stuck with him most of the time until he was transported out on the helicopter.
What I did is I responded with an ambulance crew, and the first thing we did was look for the worst case of injury, and immediately went over to this area right here, right behind me, and found a little child that was badly burned, 90 to 100% of her body, and started administering IV solutions. And as soon as we had this child in a chopper, went off to the area right behind the Avis van over there and started administering more first aid to what we could.
I started triaging patients, in other words, to try to determine how serious their injuries were on the periphery. We attempted to stabilize these patients by putting IVs in them and categorizing them according to how serious they were. The rescue helicopters landed very quickly, and we were able to helicopter out some of the very severely burned patients from the site.
The first 2 helicopters on the scene were from Ramstein's 58th Military Airlift Squadron.
Well, we were all standing there, several of us maintenance people and flight crews in front of the helicopters, all watching the show. I was looking through my camera at the time, and I took a picture right as the planes collided, and at that moment I turned and ran like everybody else. We launched the helicopters out, and the rest of the afternoon we recovered helicopters, refueled, and stayed busy launching and recovering all afternoon.
After seeing the explosion, it's just a shock. And then I think within a couple seconds, everyone who was over on the other side of the runway waiting knew the first thing we needed to do was get the helicopters in the air to see what had happened and where we needed to be. Then when we got over to the crash site, we really realized what kind of damage had been done.
The aircraft, of course, came to rest in the crowd, but immediately in front of the crowd there was a large grass fire, and a police vehicle was in that fire. And since there were people running everywhere else, I elected to go ahead and land in the fire. It looked real clear in the fire. There were no obstacles other than that car, and I went ahead and landed, and that helped to kind of clear that area out anyway.
After we were out taking people to the Lonsdale Hospital and returning back to the crash site, the command post gave a call over the intercom system around base to recall the helicopter pilots to 58th Mass Squadron. And while we were out there doing the rescue and stuff, they came down, generated 2 more helicopters out of our squadron, one out of the hangar and which was on static display down at the cargo ramp.
After he saw the extent of the catastrophe, Captain Hartenstein radioed the Landstuhl Army Medical Center, which in turn activated emergency plans involving civilian and other military helicopter rescue units.
We were already pre-positioned on the flight line. I believe our truck made it to the scene within 30 seconds. We did put the fire out very quickly, so we could attend to the people that needed the attention and were hurt.
I just couldn't believe it happened. I tried to block out as much of it as possible and just do what I was trained to do, my job, firefighting.
The training prepared us, I think, for the actual how to respond, the actual first aid, but the training is not to prepare you emotionally. It can't. There's no way that they can stress that through exercises and other training that we have.
Victims eventually were taken to any of 21 facilities in the area. In the meantime, news spread quickly and people frantically tried to call home to reassure loved ones of their being okay. Phones from the States to West Germany were jammed with anxious relatives trying to get word of family and friends. The 1964th Communications Group at Ramstein set up phones in a theater, giving people an easier chance to get through. They also established the Casualty Assistance Center, using information systems and a lot of caring people to help locate those who were separated from each other, missing, and keep a record of casualties. Chapel 2 on Ramstein stayed open around the clock, consoling those seeking quiet and possibly some answers.
I wish I had a list of all the people who helped. Unfortunately, I don't. However, I do want to thank the people who dug deep inside themselves for the courage to act heroically in the face of this tragedy.
I had to react the way I knew how and the way I was trained. And I thank God that I was trained as a pararescue specialist to react in a situation like this. And I feel in a couple of days after I calm down a little bit and the situation normals out a little bit, that I'll be fine. Mental health clinic has some counseling available for the people that can go up there and seek help. And I plan on going up there as soon as things kind of just mellow out.
Reports in the media have included stories critical of the response by emergency crews, but officials that were there are quick to counter those claims.
I think it's everybody's perspective. If a person were at a small little hospital and received, 5 or 6 casualties, that's the way they would view every casualty. And that's just basically not the sense of it. I don't think most people at individual places where they receive casualties had the idea of the immensity or significance of the catastrophe. There's a large number of casualties that needed to be sorted out in a crowd of 300,000. It was very, very difficult. And I believe that Germans and the Americans cooperated to the fullest extent. Without the German Red Cross and the training and the cooperation, it wouldn't have happened. And so I think that some of the criticism is just Monday morning quarterbacking. And I believe that had we to do it again, if we did just what we did, we'd probably do it just as well.
When it comes down to it, it was the people who reacted. It didn't matter what nationality you were, what unit you were assigned to. It was a matter of helping others. And those that did must endure knowing they did all they could when it just had to be done.